All right, everybody. Welcome back to another Art with Errol Podcast, the Monday check-in. It is the 25th of August, 2025. Let's go. Woo! Yo, man. It has been such a great week last week, but busy. I mean, life stays busy with me, man. I'm always busy. But I think we did pretty good on, hitting our game streams, getting our podcast done, doing an artwork video. I mean, it was a little shorter artwork for last week. And, I'm just coming up with ideas for emotes since we got monetization on Twitch. It's great, so we're just working on that. I got the first emote up this Friday. We'll have the video on how I made it in Illustrator, and we're gonna make the next one, and then I think I can get up to 4 or 5, so we're gonna try to just make Fridays maybe a quick sketch, and then the following week we'll create it in Illustrator and have a video on that, which I think is a good way forward for the art videos. We can talk more about that later. Oh, man. It's just been busy, man. Life is always busy. And this week for our Monday check-in, we kind of did a brief recap, as I always do. I should do the introduction all the time, but I'm Errol, everybody. If you're new to the podcast, this is the Art with Errol Podcast, and we're exploring our journey in content creation and, running your YouTube channels or Twitch and, your social media and stuff. So, that's what I like to make our main topics about. So this week about raising the bar. It's a lot of things. I always say, consistency is king. I think when you're making content, it's just to be as consistent as possible. But we also want to reach for higher level of achievement, And I think this is a great topic, just thinking about, how can you raise the bar? How can I raise the bar? Because there's always room for growth, y'all. Always room for growth. No matter where you're at in your content creation journey, there's always room for growth. Always. You can always make something a little better or work on some area that you may be lacking in. So what does it mean? What does it mean to raise the bar? You're basically setting a goal for yourself, personal standards, it just anything to make it good. It's, you don't want to be stuck in this mode of being, oh, this is just good enough. You should always be trying to, achieve something greater, chasing excellence. Let's call it that. How about that? But moving from your comfort zone, that's a big thing, man. It's hard. Like the podcast for me has been challenging in itself because of the way I talk. It's very hard. It's very challenging to really control your speech when you're used to talking a certain type of way. And it takes a lot to really, really think about it and convey what you want to say. So, I think I'm getting better in that aspect as I have, we're only doing this. This is our 4th episode. So we have only been doing this for a short time. So I think the improvement has been coming. And I think that comes along with just repetitiveness with a podcast. So, we always want to, try to achieve better. And I want to be better at my speaking, when I'm speaking to everyone. So I don't want it to just be stuck in that it's good enough phase. But moving from your comfort zone, and this was a big deal for me, moving from my comfort zone to try to do a podcast, which is really, really challenging. Continuously talking and not having a whole lot of dead space, because I could tend to kind of, have a little dead space in there, and I don't, you don't really want that in a podcast, because, you want to not be talking about a lot of fluff, but you want to be on topic and giving, the best information that you have on that topic, So, raising the bar is also, like the difference between discipline and complacency, being complacent, just being stuck in this is how I've always done it. I'm just doing it this way, You got to get out of that. You got to get out of that mindset, What are some reasons that we might not want to raise the bar, or stop us or prevent us from raising the bar on our own content or our own journey, right? What are some things? I think of this, one of the biggest things that I think of is fear of failure. That's my notes here. I'm just trying to rejection, fear of failure, and that's a tough one, right? Because a lot of people they want to do something like content creation, or start a YouTube, or start an Instagram or something, but that fear of failure or rejection is a tough pill to swallow, because not everybody is successful or becomes successful. But I think there's a path to success. You just have to be willing to put the work in to get there. And that failure or rejection can really hurt, I think you just gotta, have the mindset of if I'm going to do this, I gotta go all in. And I have to let that fear of rejection or failure go. Another one that I think is big, what may stop you from trying to raise the bar, comparing yourself to others. This to me is a big one. Because you'll see folks that are doing well or very successful at this, and you feel like you should be there, but you didn't put the time in or the hours, or your content just isn't there yet, And that's okay. You just have to not compare yourself to others. You should always compare yourself to yourself. And what I mean by that is, look at your last week or so of videos or content and judge how well you've gotten better from the previous. So you should be looking backwards, and then try to say, I need to do better than this. How do I get to that next level? How do I raise the bar? Always compete against yourself to make yourself better. I think that's a big key into, becoming successful. Because if you compare yourself to someone that's already achieved, you're going to be looking at yourself in a negative light, and you're going to be like, man, this guy or this person or this lady or whoever is just, they're just skyrocketing. Okay, that's their journey. Their journey is different than your journey. So you have to look at your journey and find the areas of improvement that you need to make, because they've already figured out their lane and path, and they're probably in the mode of trying to make their content better from where they're at. So it's important to avoid, comparing yourself to other content creators. Don't do that. Just compare yourself to yourself. look at yourself, look at your content, your stuff, and try to figure out, not to say you don't watch other content creators. That's not what I mean. Don't judge like, oh, they got this many followers and views to your views. Just focus on where you're falling short, because you need to figure out where it is that you lose the connection. How do we start raising the bar, y'all? Now, this is a tricky thing here. I always say baby steps, small steps, little steps at a time. And by reviewing yourself, reviewing your content, reviewing everything that you're working on, see where there are areas that you can make those changes, or set that goal so that's not too great. Because if you set too great of a goal, it could crush you. You don't want to set, it's good to have like a great, a long-term goal that's like, I want to be here in X amount of years or something like that. But you want more short-term goals that you can make those small adjustments, which will lead to the success of the long-term goal. And I think that's the best way to start, is by starting small. Look at the things that you can change within a week, or maybe just 1 month, and just take notes on those and say, I'm going to try to do better thumbnails this month or something, or I want to be able to work on my speech to not say which I've been trying to work on that for a while now. I've been somewhat successful. I still occasionally do it, but it's a work in progress, and it's a goal that I set, that I'm still mentally working on as I talk. I try my hardest not to do it, and it still slips up. It still slips out from time to time, So, what's another one here? We got, setting higher expectations for yourself. That's a really good thing to, give you something to work towards, so you don't get complacent and you don't get stagnated, or you don't get into that mode of, I'm just coasting. You don't want to be coasting. You want to be trying to improve. And that's what this raising the bar is all about. It's just about trying to push yourself to improve. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me. So building habits that match your new standard, that's a good thing too. So you set your small goal of I'm going to do this better this week or this month. And you try to get in the habit of doing the motion, because if you build that muscle memory and okay, in order for me to do this, I need to do X, Y, and Z. If I'm gonna make better thumbnails, I need to edit the picture a little longer, or take better photos. Maybe I need to take more photos and look at the photos and see which lighting is better, stuff like that. Just, build the habits of going through those motions so that you start to do it every time. And that way, when you do get to the point where you're making the great thumbnails and you know how to do it, you have the muscle memory. Oh, I need to take X amount of photos, or I need to edit this certain kind of way in order to do it. And you build those habits of doing it over and over again so that you can do it every time. Accountability, this is a big one, and to start raising the bar. You want to be able to hold yourself accountable too, when you fall short, because we all fall short. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You can say, oh, by the end of this week, I want to be making perfect thumbnails. That may not happen for you, and it's okay to fail, but you got to say, okay, well, now I got to work harder to try to get it done next week or something, or having someone help you with that, maybe your wife or your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or whoever it is that's, in your corner that can help you stay on task and, stay committed to, achieving your goal, whatever that goal is you set, whatever that bar is that you set, you want to have some accountability and have someone help you keep that. Real life examples, is what I've already said, trying not to speak the way I normally talk and talk in a manner that is a little bit cleaner, a lot less breaks. This has always been a challenge for me, but I have been working on it, and I still am. I'm still trying. And I think the more I do it, the better I'm going to get. We only do the podcast once a week. So I have, every Monday, I have another chance to try to do better. And I got to push myself to try to talk as clear as possibly. Another one I think for me is going to be, getting that new camera that I want to do so I can make higher quality content. I want my art content to take it to the next level. And, the camera equipment that I had before were just little camcorders that I used to record on. And the quality was okay, but I've had issues with those camcorders. And now I don't even think they work anymore, to tell you the truth. So I want to have a more professional look. So getting to that for next year is one goal that's a little bit more long term for me, because I'm going to get the camera. We're going to, relearn how to operate it, because I did take TV production when I was in my graphics design classes, y'all. But, it's, you can kind of forget things. So, getting back into it and learning how to operate the camera and, getting it set up perfectly and getting your lighting set up. And then that way you can make sure that your content's going to look really crisp and clean. That is something that I have that's more of a long-term goal for next year, or raising the bar there. So our art content, I definitely am looking forward to raising the bar and having, really good looking video footage. And see, I said it again. I didn't mean to, but having really good looking video footage and doing higher level artwork, which will be, I think, beneficial to the channel. So where I kind of lost my spot, y'all, I'm sorry. That's my real world examples for my content creation, things I'm trying to work on to get better. And that's what this talk is about, really, y'all. It's just about pursuing excellence and trying to get better at what you're doing. It's a journey. It is a journey. There's a lot of folks that, I like I said, you should watch other content creators, but don't compare yourself to them. There's great content creators that, just have a high standard, high level quality, product that they put out. And, to get to that level is a journey. It's a journey, y'all. The benefits of raising the bar. So what are our benefits? Obviously, I think you're going to grow your audience. There's a level of resilience, your confidence. It's going to be growth in all of that. You're going to open new opportunities, I think. Inspiring others to elevate is important, y'all. Working together. I think that's what the whole social media is supposed to be, or I guess the vision of what it should be, or is that you can communicate with each other and work through things together. And that's why I think this podcast is good, because I want to be able to not only help others, but, think these things out for myself, because a lot of this stuff is me talking it out loud of things I need to do. It's not more about what you need to do. It's really about what I need to do. And I want to raise the bar. So by speaking it out and, talking about it with you guys is making me think about it more. And I think that's important to do. I really do. Because you got to kind of I guess, put it out into the ether, or whatever you want to call it. Put it out into the universe. That this is what you're pursuing, and saying things aloud, it's like, that sensory thing, right? When you learn better, when you do all of them, you see it, you hear it, or you say it, you interact with it, and it just takes it, I guess, into another dimension. That's my thought process on it. But you can always, disagree and tell me what you think about that. But that's just my thoughts on, how you can make things into a reality. You also have to act, That's the big one, though. We can't never leave that out. You have to act. You have to put the hours in. You have to put the time in. At the end of the day, that has to happen. But you also have to learn from everything, too. Practical takeaways for this topic, I think, are you trying to raise the bar? Are you looking at your content? Because a lot of people will post and ghost, and they forget about it, or they don't review it, or think about it again. To me, I think that's not so great. You got to try to kind of look back at it. And I know if you're doing like 4 or 5 hours of streaming, you can't look at all of it. It's too much. Unless you put it at like 2 or 3 times speed, and then you just kind of like zooming through it. But you might miss stuff because you're not going to hear what you're saying. So if you're doing very long streams, you definitely want to review part of it. Maybe skip around, watch some of it, but you need to watch a portion of it to kind of see. And I know analytics gives you things or tools where, people leave, or a lot of people stop or lose interest. So, you can always skim to those parts and see what was going on. That's a big way to kind of review your content. Closing this topic out, I think we all have to work, to get better at stuff. And I think raising the bar is a big thing that we don't really think about a lot, We want to get better at stuff, but if we don't actually sit down and outline something or come up with, hey, where am I falling short? You're not going to make things better until you kind of review it and say, hey, I'm messing up in this area. How can I fix this? And can I set a timeline to fix it? That's raising the bar. You're looking at an aspect of your life or your content creation or wherever you're doing, and you're saying, hey, I'm falling short here. How do I get this to the next level? And I think that's pretty much where we are with this, y'all. My throat is a little dry. You work an 8-hour shift and then you come home and you try to create content. I always say this. I usually kind of struggling, but I'm doing my best to keep upbeat as much as I can. I just, sometimes my levels go up and down throughout the day. I really want to keep my levels a little bit better. that's a part of me, like, losing weight and stuff and getting better in shape. I need to do that. So there's other aspects of my life I need to raise the bar. So in that, I think that's where we can leave the topic for content creation for today. We can talk a little bit about our gaming journey, which, I've been really enjoying this South of Midnight is what we've been playing. I think we can beat it this week. It's only a 12-hour game. I think I'm close to the end, so maybe 2 more gaming sessions of that, and we'll be moving on to something else. I know the Art of Shinobi is, Shinobi is coming out. What is it? Art of Vengeance or something like that. It's an old school style game, a platforming game. I could go into that. I do want to play a few shooter games. When Battlefield 6 comes out, I already said I'm going to be diving in hard on that. That's like, that game is a lot of fun. So, and if the Battle Royale is going to be as good as the game is, the Conquest and all that, it's going to be a good game. So I'm really super excited for that. I'm pumped for Battlefield 6. Can't wait till that drops. With the next few games that's coming out, there are some games in Game Pass I haven't tried yet. I just don't want to play no 30-something hour game again. That takes a lot, and me playing only 3 times a week, it'll take me forever to beat one of those games. So I think 10 or 12 hours, that's doable. It's like a week and a half with 2 to 3 times a week playing, like a couple hours here and there. So I can do those. So other than that, I think I'm just going to be playing some shooter games, and we can probably dive into that Shinobi. From Gamescom, that He-Man game looked kind of cool too. That was like an old school kind of go through game. But I don't know. Things are coming up. We'll figure it out. As far as the artwork, I think our best bet forward is to make our emotes. So for the next couple weeks, we'll do emotes until we get 4 or 5 emotes, and I'll have those on the Twitch channel. And if you would like. It's never required. You could throw me a Prime sub on Twitch when I'm streaming. I will give you access to the emotes. We will get them all done. I have 2 that we have kind of sketched out. One that I have the video that I'm going to do this Friday, which will go up, and that emote will go up. So I should have maybe 2 emotes up by next week. And then I think, we could do 3 more. We can come up with some ideas, do some sketches. If you have ideas and you want to feed them to me, you can always comment on the podcast, or you can shoot it to me on the gaming channel, ArtwithErrol Gaming. We got ArtwithErrol Podcast, and we got just the ArtwithErrol YouTube channel. Any of those channels, if you want to shoot me ideas for artwork or anything like that, games to play, always open. Like, this is supposed to be a 2-way street, so we're trying to build the community. Our community is the Artistry Society. I say this a lot, but I always like to bring this back up at the end so folks can know that we're trying to make it a 2-way street, not a 1-way street, So I think we have done enough for today, but I like I said, I think I get more comfortable and a little bit better each time. I do make mistakes. I'm not perfect, y'all. I am trying my best to level up my content, and that's why I said raising the bars. I think it's important to think about this, because I always want to try to get better. Do I always achieve that? Maybe not, but I am making small gains. And I think that's the wins that you got to focus on. Don't focus on, you keep failing at something. Maybe focus on the small gains or the small wins that you're making, and just keep working on trying to get better each time, and just raise that bar a little bit at a time. It don't have to be like major leaps and bounds. That's what I think. I don't think you have to come out the gate perfect, because there is nothing perfect. So that's a part of, like, if you're just getting started, don't be scared to just drop it out there. You have to start somewhere. Hours and hours of doing content, you'll get there. You'll get to the point where you get better as long as you're doing these steps. Like I say, review your stuff. Try to make small gains. Set the bar up a little bit each time. If you do it week to week, that's why the Monday check-in is important, because week to week we're thinking about something else. Where can we improve? How do we improve? Yeah, I think we did good. We're at like 32 minutes. And my podcasts are short, but I still enjoy doing them. And for those who are sticking with me, listening, I just hope you'll start, feeding your comments and, giving some feedback, whether it's positive or negative, it's fine. We just want to be respectful in what we, as long as we being respectful, that's always, respect each other. Other than that, y'all, it's been a wonderful podcast. I hope you guys enjoy your week. Keep thinking and moving forward. Keep trying to make progress. And we'll check in next Monday and see how we hold up this week. Because I should be able to get at least 2 game streams this week and the art video up along with the podcast. We may not get the third one because I think I have an appointment on Thursday. So Thursday I won't be streaming, y'all. But we will definitely get one in tomorrow and Wednesday. I should be able to get one in. It's just Thursday. It's the up in the air one. So that's where we'll leave it. So until next time, you know what to do. I'm out of here, y'all.